It looks like there's some trouble on the horizon for Amazon superhero show Invincible, because apparently it was discovered that the upcoming season of Invincible was being animated, or at least partially animated, in North Korea of all places. Now, this might not necessarily seem like such a big deal for a lot of people, but there are potential legal ramifications if this is in fact true and the studio behind Invincible knew that this was going on. The revelation comes from a trove of documents recently discovered by US researchers inside a computer server housed in North Korea. It's unclear how the files ended up in the tightly controlled portion of the internet, but the researchers who analyzed them told CNN they appear to be the result of work that was unknowingly outsourced to North Korean workers. And this next bit is why that's such a big deal for them. The US has imposed strict sanctions prohibiting American companies from doing business with the nuclear armed regime. Now, outsourcing animation to other countries isn't really an unusual thing. Companies have been doing that for decades now, with South Korea being a pretty popular spot to do that because it saves money, and there's really, at least not now, not any American companies that really do handle 2D animation, especially hand-drawn stuff. The way they usually handle it is, let's say you have a character turn their head, so they're like this, and then they're like this. You'll have the American studio basically do this frame and then this frame, and then you have the Koreans or South Koreans handle all the frames in between or whatever in order to get that fluid animation, and that's kind of how they outsource it. But outsourcing it to North Korea, as you can see here, is illegal to do that, and that's why it's kind of puzzling how they actually got a hold of this sort of thing. In addition to drawings for the upcoming season of the Amazon Prime Video show Invincible, the files also contain sketches and videos that resemble the work of Yanu, Child of Wonder, a superhero series slated to air on Max, the streaming service that, along with CNN, is owned by Warner Brothers Discovery. There is no evidence that the studios had any knowledge their proprietary work was on a North Korean server. And in all honesty, I can kind of believe that. I think what happened is they outsourced it to another studio in another country, whether it be South Korea or China or something like that, and they further outsourced it to another company. So the way I think things happened here is the American studio that's producing Invincible probably outsourced a lot of the animation to South Korea, which is a pretty standard thing. The South Korea studio, I don't imagine they would work with the North Korean studio because there's not really a good relationship between the two countries, and there's also strict sanctions between them as well. So the South Korea company probably outsourced some of the animation to a Chinese company because they also do a lot of this hand-drawn animation stuff. And then that Chinese company who will work with North Korea outsource some of the stuff or even the whole thing to the North Korean company in order to do this. And it might sound good on the surface, but because everyone's getting work, but pretty much the people in North Korea, I can't imagine they're making a whole lot of money on this. So they're pretty much getting shafted, making slave wages while all the other people profit off of it. But you know, that's just the way things go sometimes. It says here the files were discovered in December by Nick Roy, a Boston-based cyber sleuth who regularly scans the North Korean internet as a hobby. Okay, it was like, what do you like to do for fun? I like to scan North Korean internet servers. It's like, I mean, all right, good on you. I mean, I guess everyone needs a hobby. I've just never imagined something like that. Roy found a new North Korean website that outside visitors didn't need a password to access, unlocking a trove of animation sketches, and shared them with the Stimson Center, a Washington-based think tank. Okay, so this was back in December when he shared those. The documents include a series of Chinese instructions that have been translated into Korean. So that does suggest that China initially had, so it's probably outsourced to China, and then they outsourced it to North Korea in order to try to save money on it or something like that. They call for making adjustments to the size and style of the animation among the documents. There is also an editing sheet written in English with specifications for animation work with Invincible printed atop. So it's clear that American company was, I guess what they did is an American company had the sheet. They sent it to China, and then China sent it to North Korea, or at least that's what it appears to happen right now, because it's still legal to outsource animation to China, but it's not legal to outsource it to companies that are working with North Korea. Now, if the Chinese company was working with North Korea unbeknownst to the American company, well, then obviously there's going to be an investigation, or there should be an investigation to determine whether the American company knew that that relationship between the Chinese company and the North Korean one was going on. But if they didn't know about it, then the American company had no issue there. But if they did, then that could be a problem. The discovery raises questions about the ability of U.S. tech and creative arts companies to control their supply chains and avoid work that could inadvertently violate sanctions banning countries from doing business with North Korea. Yeah, if you're an animation company and you're outsourcing some of the work to another company, you got to know who's going to be touching this. Now, it does kind of address that in this article. In a statement to CNN, California-based Skybound Entertainment, which produces Invincible for Amazon, said it does not contract with Chinese or North Korean companies. Okay, so it may sound like that they outsourced it to a South Korean company, like I initially said, and that company further outsourced it to a Chinese one, which sent it over to North Korea. And has no knowledge of such companies working on Invincible, Skybound Entertainment said it would investigate the research that CNN presented. Our contracts specifically prohibit outsourcing to any third party without our express prior written consent, and no such consent has been sought nor granted, Skybound Entertainment spokesperson Hannah Cosgrove said. That seems pretty reasonable to say if you're going to outsource it to an animation studio, they can't send it off to a third party without getting express written permission. Skybound Entertainment says that they're taking this matter very seriously and investigating what happened. And in all likelihood, they probably outsourced it to an animation studio in South Korea, and then they sent it off somewhere else that ended up going to North Korea. And that also happened with the show Ianu for HBO Max. Lionforge Entertainment, which is producing it, said that they contract with South Korea-based animation studio in order to do the work on it. But Lionforge learned late last year that that South Korea company was outsourcing it to a third party without permission. So Lionforge severed ties with them, which, okay, that seems to be pretty cut and dry, makes sense with this. But if you wanted to get a little conspiratorial, you could say that the American animation studio like Skybound knew that this was going to happen and they were okay with it. They could be like, hey, South Korea company, for what we normally pay you $150 to animate, we'll pay you $100 to animate, but you don't actually have to do the work yourself because North Korea will charge $50 for that. So we'll send it off to you for a discount for us, and then you send it off to them to get the work done, and you're making a $50 profit by just being a middleman on that. And we'll just kind of put in the contract that you're not allowed to do that. So if it's ever discovered, then we can just feign outrage on it, sever the contract, you rebrand at a later date, and then we'll work with you again, rinse and repeat. Because I don't think this is the one time North Korea has been animating American shows, because obviously they have animation studios. They're not going to set up these studios for just a one-time thing. So it doesn't make sense that they would just do this one time and we just so happen to discover it the one time that it happened. I'm thinking this has probably been going on for some time, and it's just a matter of whether the American studios were aware that this was going on and if they were trying to actually skirt sanction laws in order to save money, because I can see that being the case, but we need more proof in order to actually make that determination. But let me know what you think about all this in the comment section below. Do you think Skybound was aware that this was going on and they were just kind of turning a blind eye to it? Or do you think they legitimately are surprised about this revelation? And if you haven't already, make sure you click that subscribe button if you want to stay up to date with the latest entertainment news. And don't forget to like and share the video because it helps out with the channel. Thank you.